All right, gang, welcome aboard once again to the weekly Mac Forum video chat. This is the March 26th edition, unless I've lost a day along the way, which sometimes happens when I'm on vacation. Got a week break from school this week. Let's go ahead and get right into things because we got quite a few things on the agenda for this evening. Our newest member, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page because I loaded it a little bit ago. So let me just refresh real quickly here. Oh, good. I'm glad I did this. Our newest member is Lou Mason. That's not the name that was up there a little bit ago. So welcome to all of our newest members. Hope that they find some interesting information here in the forum. And let's get right into the forum overview and kind of see what we find here. All right, first of all, I want to get right into something. Remember Sandman noticed that he got an iTunes update here recently. And this post is from the 24th. And then he proceeded to install that. And then shortly after that, he got another notice about an install iTunes 12.6 in limbo. But basically another installation of iTunes 12.6 going on. And this could have been caused by the fact that Apple recently released a iTunes 12.6 update. It was up for a short period of time. And then apparently it got yanked in favor of another update with the same version number. And our buddy Kirk McLaren has a list of some of the things that were broken in iTunes 12.6 that might have led to some of the rush to update those two updates in so short an amount of time. First of all, the clear button for the up next queue not behaving itself, some glitches in the history button, the mini player close button would sometimes freeze, and some other interface type issues, a few other things. If you want to see all of that, the different things that were updated or that might have been fixed in that second update, have a look at that. And also, that's a good article, even if you're not really interested in the things that might have been fixed in that second 12.6 update. Kirk has some links to other iTunes information. Gives you a description of the changes to the mini player window, and some more information about the mini player in iTunes 12. And he's always got some interesting information about iTunes and about other issues at the moment. So keep that in mind as you go through. That's not exactly a forum related article, but it'll give you an idea of why that update might have been, that second update might have been necessary. Also, back onto something that is in the forum. Remember, I think this looks like Den Joseph, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, wanted to know about opening WMF files in Mac. And WMF is a Windows meta file that is extremely Windows specific. It's a graphic format. I don't know of anywhere else that those files appear besides Windows. But if you want to open that kind of file, our moderator, fellow moderator, Razor's Edge, is correct. If you want to open that kind of file, it's going to take some digging because you're going to have to convert it in order to open it strictly in other OS X programs, Mac OS programs. It's going to need to be converted. And I had forgotten, I linked to this thread because Denhosa, the member that posted this thread, checked out two programs. One of them I did not know about. The other one I did, but I had forgotten it did WMF files. WMF Converter Pro I did not know about. Graphic Converter I did. I've been an off and on user of Graphic Converter for some years now, ever since I needed a while back. Oh, wow, more than a decade now. I'm getting old. I did some work. My wife and I did some work on a CD, historical CD here locally. And to do some of the graphic work, I used a graphic converter. I had access to Photoshop, but the problem I had was certain tools. This goes back to like Photoshop 5, I think it was, didn't behave in a way that made sense to me. So I went looking for something, and I found Graphic Converter. And Graphic Converter is one of those programs. If you are an old Apple II GS user, you remember a program called SHR Convert, which I believe was written by Andrew Welch. And SHR Convert's claim to fame was it would convert from darn near anything to darn near anything. And you can say that about Graphic Converter. Along with conversion, though, it has some pretty good editing capability. And if you're looking around for a program to do that and edit some relatively obscure files, this might be a way to go. It has a version that you can download and try before you buy to see if it suits your needs. So take a look at that. And to our new members, this is what stick-to-itiveness proves. If you keep looking, you'll find the answer. Sometimes you're going to find the answer. Sometimes someone in the forum will provide you an answer. So good job for him sticking with that answer and finding it for us and posting back. And I want to remind you, especially if you're new, if you find the solution to your problem, post back and let us know, either because it's something that one of our members suggested or because it's something that you discovered independently, because that will help future members in the thread as they read and search. They will be able to know that, yes, this worked, no, this doesn't work. And that's always a good thing. All right, let's go ahead. This one looks like Mr. SR71 and a question about a way to delete pictures from photos and from the all photos section at the same time. I have not been using photos a lot. I haven't been doing a lot of photo work recently. Photos is the replacement for iPhoto. If you have later incarnations of the OS, iPhoto does not work unless you have the absolute latest version of iPhoto. Apple's moving all of that photo editing capability to Photos. It has some interesting capabilities, and this will give you a tip about how to delete if you want to delete it from both places. So what we were looking for, as you can see, is to delete it from, I'm going to go back up to the top and look at the question. They wanted to delete it from Photos and from the all photos at the same time. So apparently, if you delete it from this Photos, which is the top level, then it's gone from everywhere. So you want to be sure when you're working in Photos and you're about to delete something, be careful as to where you delete it from. All right, I'll probably have some more tips on Photos in a future show because I think it's a really neat and interesting program. All right, let's move on. And let's move to a little bit of errand of Apple news for this week. First of all, Barron's Next has a comment, and I think this came from a forum member. I think the link for this came from a forum member. My apologies if I'm drawing a blank at the moment. This is a set of drawings from a patent filing that basically has to do with a thin accessory that would let you turn your iPhone or iPad into a laptop of sorts. Essentially, you slide your iPhone into the space where the trackpad would normally be, okay? And then everything that's on the screen would be mirrored onto the screen of this pseudo laptop. And the middle of, basically the mobile device, the iPhone, would act as the brains of the computer. Now, I don't know if this is going to take off, okay? Don't go looking for this immediately. Lots of patent filings never become full-fledged products, but I thought it was an interesting thing to think about. What would you do with this? Who would find it useful? How much brain power could you cram into a cell phone? And if you could near the power of a laptop, I mean, think about this. If you had, if you could jam the power, computing power of a laptop into a cell phone and give yourself the ability to plug that cell phone basically into the laptop in the way they describe here in the drawing, and then have everything appear on this laptop screen. All right. So that means when you're traveling, yeah, you've got a laptop and a phone, but you've now got sort of the best of both worlds. You've got a very, very light laptop, conceivably. And when you are really on the go and can't carry the laptop, you yank the phone out and you've still got a lot of the processing power. This has the potential to be a very interesting idea. It also has the potential to be a computing nightmare. Anytime, and I say that not because of something wrong with Apple's implementation, but strictly as a longtime computer user, I understand that when you try to take two devices and mash them together to make one, sometimes the first incarnation is not as good or as polished as we would like. I will say this, if they ever release one of these things, I want to play with it. I want to see how well it works. It's an interesting concept. I want to see if it works. I would buy one in a hot second if it worked. Now, if it works. Okay. Now, I suppose some of you heard my wife shouting in the background, because this is yet another list of things in the Apple toy department, that might be off limits budget-wise. But it's certainly worth a look. I kind of hope to see this come about because it's got a little bit of that James Bond character to it, But anyway, I thought that would be kind of interesting, stir up a little discussion. And then let's move on to Apple's file system. Okay, this is some information. This comes from a site called iMore, which is a really good site for a lot of iPhone related information and that kind of thing. And this is dealing with the what's called APFS, the Apple file system. Okay, it was introduced last year at Worldwide Developer Conference, and it's likely that starting this year, sometime this year, this is the file system that will move to the Apple Watch, Apple TV, iPhone, iPad, and on up the chain. This is probably what's going to replace the existing HFS Plus file system. HFS Plus has been around a while. Okay, there was a beta available if you're running the 10.3 beta, the iOS 10.3 beta, and APFS is available for testing on the iPhone as well. It's popping up in some of the Sierra betas, as I understand it, and many people won't need to know too much about the file system. It's detailed that most end users won't have to pay a whole lot of any attention to. Any future things, it looks interesting because it could conceivably create smarter backups, faster updates. It's got a lot of potential capability that hasn't been fully implemented yet, rather. But this is a list of things that are some of the things that are possibilities. And you might be asking yourself, why is Apple replacing HFS Plus? Well, that's because it's been around almost 20 years. It's been around since 1998. I was thinking year 2000, but according to them, 1998, and I'll trust their sources over my memory any day of the week. And HFS Plus it's a good file system, but it's starting to show its age. 20 years is a good run in computers. And so this, I think, is one more step toward getting all of the iDevices and all of the desktop and notebook type hardware integrated together. If you get them on the same file system with similar characteristics, storage characteristics, you eliminate a lot of headaches for programmers. So I'm going to be interested. I may have some more comments on this in the future as I've had a little more time to delve into this a little bit. But for those of you that are interested, this article will give you an overview of that situation where we are at the moment. All right, and now we go back and we visit our old buddy Kirk McLaren at the Kirkville website again. All right, Kirkville is a haven for lots of music-related information, and as such, because Kirk is a longtime Mac user, a lot of his commentary swerves into iTunes use because that's what so many Mac users are using. And this is something that he delves into, and that is how to deauthorize an account. As you know, you've got a limit to the number of devices that you can have associated with your iTunes account. And there used to be a way, I'm thinking like blue and white G3 days, there was a way to go in and deauthorize individual devices. You did it within iTunes, and it was a menu command to deauthorize an individual device. So let's say you're selling your computer, you don't want it associated with your iTunes account anymore. That was a good way to eliminate just that computer. But the problem is, what do you do if there is no, if you don't have access to that computer? Maybe you forgot to deauthorize it. Maybe, as happened to me at one point, you didn't forget, but the computer just sort of blew up all of a sudden. You know, with little or no warning, you had a massive failure of sorts. And so you can't very well deauthorize that computer because it's not running for you to run the deauthorization routine. So what Kirk is suggesting, and I'm going to get my iTunes window out of the way for just a second so you can see the article for a little bit longer. What he's suggesting is you choose Account, View My Account, and when you enter your Apple ID and password, it shows you how many computers you have authorized. You can then deauthorize all of them in one fell swoop. Now, they don't have that information available. Now, you can see here's Account. All right, now when you go to View My Account, I won't show you all of it, but then the next thing would come up would show me how many things available. That shows you where to go. Now, you're saying, why would you want to deauthorize all of them? And now I've got to go back and authorize the ones that I want to keep. In other words, I've got 5 devices. I sold one of them. If I deauthorize all of them, I've got to go back and add those other 4 back in. That's true, but that was the solution that Apple came up with for situations where somebody no longer had a particular device and needed to deauthorize it. And reauthorizing a device is very simple. Let's say, for example, you have a Mac notebook and a desktop Mac. When you deauthorize those 2 machines, all of them are deauthorized. And let's say that you only want to reauthorize the desktop Mac. All you've got to do is launch iTunes and try to play some track from the Apple Store, from the iTunes Store, a track that you purchased from the iTunes Store. It will then ask you if you want to authorize, and then you can tell it yes. And you do that on each of your devices. So let's just say you've got 2 iPhones, a Mac, desktop, and a laptop associated with your account. You've sold the laptop, you want to deauthorize it. You deauthorize all of them, then you go back in on the other devices and re-add them by trying to play a tune and responding to the prompt when it asks you what you want to do. I know it sounds like a pain in the keister, and it kind of is a little bit, but I've done it. It's really not as complicated as you would think, or not as horrible as it sounds like. It's certainly easier than having to contact Apple and say, oh, gee, I can't deauthorize this device anymore, or having a bunch of dead devices. At one time, I had 2 or 3 dead computers. And by dead, I don't mean that these were computers that I had sold. I mean that they had died. I couldn't deauthorize those devices because they literally would not boot anymore because of logic board failures and other issues. And no, I'm not commenting on the durability of Apple computers. These were computers that had long since served us faithfully and deserved to be retired with some degree of dignity. One of these days, I'll link you to an article that I did about this particular Mac called FrankenMac. Okay, and it describes what I did to a blue and white G3. I'm not sure that it's a good thing that there are no real rules about what you can do to a computer, because I'm sure somebody would accuse me of abusing this machine after some of the things that I did to it. But hey, and then last but not least, in our corner this week, I want to talk a little bit about the smart searching features in Apple, in the Mac OS, and in associated programs. Now, most of you know that if you click on Spotlight, you can start searching for something, as I'm doing now, and it will show you things that might be of interest to you. Okay, there you can see a couple of folders that have something that I started searching for. If you search for an app, I'm going to just real quickly do this. Let's search for text edit. Let's just do that one real quick. All right, it filled it in. It knows that I want to search for text edit. As you can see, I could launch text edit from here. It's showing all the things that have something to do with text edit. Okay, so I could launch text edit from here. It's the first one in the list, and there you see it's launched. Now, that's pretty smart, but that's not all you can do with the smart search capability that's built into Mac OS. And all of the capabilities that I'm going to talk about tonight have been in the last several iterations of the operating system. Now, as you can see, right now I've got my applications folder open on the screen here. I'm going to minimize my Safari window just to get rid of some clutter. And I want to show you a smart search that I did, that I built up earlier today. All right, just to show you some of the things that you can do. I have one that I said that I call today's files. Now, these are all files that I have opened up or in some ways looked at in today. All right. Now, here's how that was built. To build that search function, I'm gonna build a completely new one here. Let's start searching, and let's say that I want to do one called yesterday. Okay, it started searching for yesterday, but it didn't really give me what I wanted. So I'm going to expand my search out to this Mac. And now you can see that this window changes. And now I can start setting criteria for what I want, okay? I'm going to click the little plus symbol there. And what I'm going to do is add, it seems to be a little slow with adding. What I want to do is add criteria, okay? So I'm going to look, I want to start with a completely new search so that it's not inside today's folder. I'm going to add, I want to look for yesterday. All right. Just real quickly, type in the word yesterday, start searching for yesterday real quickly. And that's to bring up this window. Now it started searching in applications, but that's not where I want to go. So I'm going to tell it I want to look for this Mac. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click right here where it's right next to save. That lets me add a search criteria. So I want to show the kind of file to be anything. Now I could change it to be movies, music, PDF, whatever. But I want to search for anything right now. And then I want to add another criteria. And as you can see, it defaults to name contained. And if I started typing, okay, it would, for example, if I pick the word yes, it starts to narrow down, but that's not what I want to do. For my purposes, I want to add that the file be created within the last, here, I'm going to choose yesterday. I'm going to set the created date to yesterday. And notice it doesn't show me anything. I didn't really create anything new yesterday. So let's just, for the sake of argument, expand it out to be this week. And it finds a file that I added today. Now I could save this if I wanted to. If this is a search that I use all the time, I could save it. And whenever I click on that, it would show me the search that meets that criteria, show me any files that meet that criteria. As you can see, I've already got a couple of them here. I've got a folder, a search that I did earlier today that looks at work files, okay? I've got one that I looked at today. Here are files that I've looked at today. Now these are files that I've just sort of happened to examine, and you can tag files. Let me show you how to do that real quick. I'm going to select a file, and I can go into the comment, and as you can see, I put this one in work. But when I click right there in that comment field from doing get info, I could add any of these tags, or I can create a new tag. As you can see, some of these tags are going to be things that I've added that are not on your computer. That's one way that a smart search can help you. But here's another one. Smart searches are scattered throughout the operating system in ways that you would not necessarily think of. iTunes uses smart playlists, or can use smart playlists. We've talked about that before on the show a few times. And let's just take a look. I did a smart mailbox, okay? I did one showing me only the mail that I've gotten today, all right? And the way you create a smart mailbox is that you're going to open mail, and you're going to go to the mailbox window, and you're going to choose new smart mailbox. And that's going to let you set all kinds of parameters for what you want in your mailbox. I'm going to try creating one. I don't know if I have anything from here on my hard drive at the moment, but I wanted to look for Mac forums. And I'm going to tell it any criteria because there might be more than one thing that I want to search for. But let's just start with that search criteria, something from Mac forums, okay? And I want to include messages from the trash, or, well, I'm going to leave out the messages in the trash, and include messages in my sent box, just for the heck of it. Now let's see if it finds anything. Okay, and there you have it. It's found all of the information, all of the emails from Mac forums that are still on my hard drive. And as you can see, these emails go back as far as September of about 2015, August, September of 2015, up through to about February. I'm pretty good about deleting my Mac forums mail. So this is all that's left. What would happen though, if I got an indication of any new mail from Mac forums, it would pop right there and I could go to it. As you can see, I've got this one that is all the mail I've gotten today. In theory, if your work email tends to come from one particular domain, you could flag it that way. I can flag based on the basis of who sent it. For example, I've got 2 emails here. I've got a couple of emails from my wife with some things she wants me to look at. None of them are Apple related, so I guess I don't have an excuse to buy that red iPhone 7. But I do have, let me show you something else that I did. I had it search for, I built up a search term with the word Apple. And this is, and I'm going to refine this a little bit more, but the reason I had it search for this is some of these are emails of receipts from things purchased in the App Store. Now, some of it's other stuff that I just haven't gotten around to deleting, but this is all the stuff that's come from Apple over a period of time. If you get creative with these rules, you can do all kinds of things in terms of redirecting mail and redirecting email, sorting it out for you so that you know, let's say, for example, you don't really care to see email from a certain sender. That's low priority on your list. You could use a smart mailbox. You can use a smart mailbox to tag things from work, for example, as high priority. Grab everything coming from this person or this domain and put it in a mailbox so that I know right away that I need to look at that. It's very easy, as you saw, to build those up. Let me just give you an idea. You see the Mac forum one that I created. Here's the Apple one. The one that I set for today. Now, once you've got these boxes created, if they're not behaving the way you want it, then you can go in and right-click on the box. One of your options is Edit Smart Mailbox, and you can change the criteria. Okay, so right now it's set to date received is today. What if I change it to date received is yesterday? Watch what happens. All right, right now it says that I have 3 unread things in my inbox. Let's go back and look at that. Okay, right now I've got in my today box, I've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 emails. Okay, but what if I change that? Let's go in and edit the criteria. Watch how this behaves. I want to set my date received to any time in the last week. Watch what happens. As soon as I click OK to confirm that I want to change that criteria, look at how many more emails got dumped into that box. So you can easily, once you create one, change the rules based on what you need to do. It's easy to duplicate this box. Okay. For example, now that I have one that says today, I'm going to change this one to, I'm going to change the name of this one from today to last week. Okay, and that will keep everything that I've gotten in the last week. And I'm going to go to this other one. I want to reset that criteria back to today. Edit the smart mailbox. I want the date received to be today. Now, you may be asking, why would I have one set to within the last week? There are days when if I come in from work and I'm later than usual or I'm really tired, I don't look at my email. So I may not get to my email today. And so the next day I've got 2 days worth of email. So I need to grab everything within the last like week. I could grab unread mail only, but Mac Mail's already got a few things to deal with that. A lot of different options there. Well, if you look at that set of rules, potential rules. See, there we go. I got another email while we were talking, and it got dumped immediately into this box here, into my today box. And I can change this around all kinds of ways. If you look at the list of stuff that's available, look right here at some of the different options that you have. You can set it by messages flagged. You can set it based on what account, recipient, to, from, entire message, subject heading. If your sender is classed as a VIP, member of a certain group, anything like that. There are a lot of capabilities there. So take a look at that. It will be a really, especially for you highly organized and or OCD types, this will be something that you will really appreciate. I'm kind of forcing myself to organize my email now because, as you can see from looking at the junk boxes, I get a lot of junk. I sometimes wait 2 or 3 weeks before I look at that because my junk filtering is pretty good so far. But anyway, that's going to do it for that little tip into smart searching. There are other areas where this can be used. I just showed you mail. And as I said, we've used smart folder issues before in the iTunes format. And now we've looked at smart folders in the Finder. If I can find it and the site is still functioning, sometimes it behaves itself, sometimes it doesn't. I wrote about this a while back, some time ago now, in the old About This Particular Macintosh e-zine. And what I wrote was still then, which is several years ago, is still applicable now in terms of the usefulness of smart folders and smart search criteria. So if that article is up and running, I'll link to it in the show notes. I'll have, as usual, I have links to all of the content in the show notes. And that's going to just about do it for this week. Although I will say one thing to you guys, keep an eye out during the week, and I'll put a notice up probably about 24 hours before the video goes up. One of the things that I'm working on is a couple of uses for Automator. I tried it. I've got one of them built. It's about 99% of the way to working. I didn't want to try to demo that tonight. I wanted to show you that as a means of how you can get various Mac applications working together to do something. And what this essentially does is set a calendar alarm that goes off at a certain time and loads up a particular web stream in Safari. And in theory, I could then, using something like Audio Hijack or something of that nature, record it so I could listen to it later. What I'm using it for, I've got the URL in a calendar event. So when it goes off, if I just click on that URL, then it launches Safari and takes me to that station. I listen to the Blues Show out of there, Tucson, on KXCI fairly regularly. And without the alarm, I would forget about it because of the time difference between here and Arizona. So I built one of those. And in theory, you could do that with just about any website that you want to reach. I also frequently listen to the Blues Show on the local public radio station, which is Red River Radio. you can use the same setup to go to their site. What you need to make that work is strictly knowing the site, and there's some things about the video player. Some streams don't work with it, but I'll have something up about that this week, how to use Automator to do that. I'll put a note up about that the day before and post a short little video that'll walk you through how to create something like that. I think you might find it kind of useful, especially if you want to listen to a show that's going to come up at a time when you're away from home. And yes, I know there are third-party apps that will do this, but the thing is, I think sometimes we buy apps when we could spend 5 or 10 minutes learning something new about our Macs and come up with a workable solution. So I'll put that up one day this week, and as I say, about 24 hours before it goes up, I'll have that available to you. And just one more thing that's potentially useful. And I hope that you've enjoyed this week's show and all the information that we brought to you. And until next week, this has been your host, Sylvester Rock, aka Sly Dude on the forum. And I hope that I see you next week.